Hey, I'm back. And those of you that are following the book journey, the read of the game, that's what it looks like. And it can be purchased on my website at consciouspress.net. Thus far, we have completed up to chapter 6. I want to get you guys off into chapter 7. Let's get it on. Chapter 7. Despite not sleeping well the night before, Goldie rose early the next morning, and while Teresa slept, he slipped into a sweatsuit and hit the park in the development in which she lived. Goldie loved calisthenics. He worked out in his spare time. He believed that every man should be prepared for battle at all times, and if he had to go to war, he didn't want to be the one to get tired. When Goldie arrived back at the apartment, Teresa was up and had made a nice hearty breakfast. She had noticed Goldie's car still out in the parking lot. As he had entered into the archway of the kitchen, he said, "Good morning, baby." Teresa looked up from the task of washing dishes and replied, "Good morning." He stood there for a few moments, admiring her, and said, "By the way, I thought you should know how wonderful you were last night." Teresa smiled. "You have to realize who I was working with." He returned her smile. "You know what? Baby, that totally slipped my mind." She asked Goldie, would he like something to eat? He replied, "I'll have my regular after a nice hot shower." She walked over to the kitchen table and placed the plate, cup, glass, and a set of utensils down onto the tabletop and said, "I figured when you finish your shower that I would warm your breakfast in the microwave and set it out for you." Goldie disappeared into a nice hot shower. Afterward, had returned fully dressed to a beautiful breakfast: waffles, sausage, and eggs, along with orange juice and coffee. That was his favorite. After breakfast, as Teresa began to clear the kitchen table, Goldie made his way into the living room to read the morning edition of the home news. When he was done, he set the newspaper back down onto the coffee table and walked over and opened the blinds. After which, he sat back down in his easy chair. He just sat there, looking out through blinds that shielded a large picture window. And after a few moments, Goldie called out, "Come here, baby." Teresa appeared almost instantly. She eased up beside him in his easy chair and replied, "Yes, Goldie? Baby, I want you to look around yourself, and then I want you to take a look out of these here blinds." Teresa replied, "Goldie, what?" He didn't say anything. He just sat there looking out through the blinds. After taking a look around the elegantly decorated room, brass, glass, and various types of African artifacts, she placed her hands onto her shapely hips and had given him an inquisitive smile. She said, "Come on, Goldie, what is it that you want me to see?" He smiled slyly. "Hey, this shit ain't half bad." Teresa returned his smile and eased around in front of him and sat down onto his lap and had given him a big hug. Goldie asked, "What's that for?" She looked intensely into his eyes and replied, "It's because I remember when what we've come from and all it took to get where we are today. Goldie, today I appreciate it, and I owe it all to you." He leaned forward and kissed her on the forehead. "Baby, do you know the sad part about it all? I appreciate our love, but I cherish nothing. I'll leave here today knowing the price of everyone and everything, but the value of nothing. However, I do have to give you credit. You made me aware of a lot of things. I also want you to know that it's because of you that I'm beginning to come around. Today I can honestly say that I truly value your friendship, your honesty, and your loyalty. Hell, I remember when you had a snotty nose and a face full of tears, scared to death of that big old world out there. Do you remember?" Teresa placed a playful finger onto the tip of his nose and smiled. Yeah, I remember the day that we met. Baby, I want you to know I'm proud of you. And it gives me great pleasure to say today, sitting in my lap is a woman. I'm as proud of you as I am of my work. You are a masterpiece. And I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to play a part in the making of you. Baby, I got to go to work. Teresa rose so that he could stand. He said, okay, it's Friday, big money day. Let's get it on. I'll make the necessary calls on the road. You know the drops. As he walked over and removed his jacket from the living room closet and began to make his way to the door to leave, Teresa, who had been standing there in the room watching him closely the whole time, called out, Goldie. He stopped and turned to face her before walking out of the room. She said, thanks. Goldie turned and walked out the door. He knew that it had all been said, and he also knew that she had earned it. On the outside of Teresa's place, Goldie jumped behind the wheel of his caddy, and as it warmed up, he played Freddie Jackson. He placed Freddie Jackson into the player. Good morning, heartache. He listened to the words. Freddie said, I see you back in town, as in the heartache. What's new, as in it being a continuing thing. He always played music like that when he was open, when he was into the sensitive of the man behind the mask. Goldie thought, well, let me put this shit aside because this shit sure don't pay no bills. At that moment, he reached over and turned off the radio in the car and had begun to back out of his parking spot. Now, Teresa was watching Goldie through the kitchen window as he sat there in the parking lot. Her thoughts verbalized. In a low voice, she said, I got me a real man. She only wished that she had told him that during their conversation. However, she knew it was too late then. So she decided to get the things together that she would need. She also knew that it wouldn't be long before she would receive her cue call from Goldie. Meanwhile, Goldie had been riding in silence for the last few minutes or so. Then all of a sudden, he put on his war face, for it was time to do battle. He pumped himself and reached over and snatched his car phone. He dialed a number, and after a few moments, smooth voice came over the line. He spoke into the telephone receiver. It's your dime. Goldie knew that it was Smooth, and Smooth knew it was Goldie by what was said. Goldie said, go, and the line went dead. Go meant go to your designated pickup spot, and you had 20 minutes to get there and wait. Goldie dialed another telephone number, and a few moments later, Charles came over the line. He said, yes, which is a hell of a way to answer the telephone, but through that, Goldie knew that it was him. He repeated the same procedure. He said, go, and the line went dead. Goldie dialed another telephone number, and a few seconds later, Tony came over the line. He said, hello? Goldie caught the voice and repeated the same procedure. He said, go, and the line went dead. Goldie dialed another telephone number. After the telephone had rung a few times, finally, Mark picked up the receiver. He said, hello? His voice sounded as if he had just waken up. Goldie repeated the same procedure. He said, go, and the line went dead. Then he got Teresa on the line. And when she answered, he repeated the same procedure. Go. And the line went dead. After Goldie's telephone call to Teresa, she was left in thought. But it didn't stand in her way of getting the things she needed together and preparing to make her drops. She knew when Goldie was out there in that life, he was in a world of his own. So she promised herself the next time that she got the opportunity, she would tell him all of the things that she wanted him to know, that being the things of her heart. Meanwhile, Goldie had got Kathy on the line. He said, "Hey, chick, what's happening?" She replied, "Ain't nothing. Just preparing for the day. It's Friday, and you know it's going to be busy." As he turned the large car out into the traffic of Route 18 off Commercial Avenue, he smiled to himself and said, "Hey, it's good to know that you're on the ball. I called to let you know that I made the necessary calls. It won't be long now. Are you ready?" Kathy smiled as she reached over and retrieved her coffee cup off of the kitchen table. "Goldie, you seated at. Okay, baby. Let me go. Let me get out of your hair then. I'm gone." The line went dead. Now, Goldie didn't have any other plans at the moment. So he decided that he would take a ride down to his hideout, check a local P.O. box, and get things ready for the following day, Saturday. He thought finally he would have some time for himself. Once inside of the hideout, he turned on the light switch and began to look through his mail. And to his surprise, there was a letter from a good friend who also happened to be a fellow player. He walked over and placed the keys down onto the dining room table. Then he stepped off into his sunken living room, where he made himself comfortable in his easy chair and began to read the letter, which read, "Hey, big brother, I just thought I would check in with you. I wanted you to know the storm is over and the weather is fine. I'm waiting on you, Hollywood." Now, Hollywood was a fellow player from the South. He had a beautiful setup and a pretty thriving business, but it was difficult for him to keep that thing, drug in parentheses. It wasn't because drugs are difficult to get in this country. However, longevity in the game stems from thinking the right connections and precise moves. Now, this is where Goldie came in. He would furnish the entire operation. He brought Joe in because he was going to use him to do it. He figured he would make a little money. Hell, everybody would make a little money. Goldie was happy that he caught this kite before he met with Joe, because he had just come up with his exit plan out of the game. After looking through the remainder of the mail, Goldie made his way into the bedroom, where he placed a DVD into the player. Then he laid back across his king-size waterbed, thinking of a way to perfect his plan. Hey, I apologize for those few errors. I really don't have time to read it over, but I am going to listen to it while I take care of a few things that I need to. If it's bad, you won't get this now. I'll put it together again and I'll put it out to you. Hey, look, I love y'all. Y'all be cool. Stay with me and enjoy this ride. The book is progressive. It's really ready to get hot now. Love you guys. Peace.